you check the children? Show a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is what
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Me got Jaime and Fuego here.
And we are here to do our final review of Chucky Season 2. We did a review of Episode 1, we did a review of Episodes 2 through 5, and then we are back to talk about the last 3 episodes and the season as a whole. I would be hard-pressed. I didn't really differentiate between each of the last 3 episodes, so I don't know that we'll go episode by episode, but maybe we will. But let's do this like we normally do, talk about our brief overall thoughts, then talk about, everything else. I would say that I was actually starting to get kind of happy with it by the end of the last, by episode 5. I liked episode 5, and I was like, okay, this is turning into more fun. And then it just kind of got really super wacky again. Like, it totally wasted one of the cool things that it presented in episode 5 when we saw that Jennifer Tilly was still in the doll. Completely wasted that.
Yeah.
There was just a lot of weird decisions, down to, ending Andy and Kyle's story in episode 7. Like why remove them from the playground or from the playing field, so late in the game with 1 episode left with like virtually no resolution. So yeah, I mean, I guess the overall of it, before we break down in detail, I would say I was kind of ultimately, I guess, disappointed with the show. Like this season, it was too much of a roller coaster and not enough high points for me. Like, it was it was like 1, and then it was down here for a while, and then 1, and then it was down here for a while, and like, that was basically the way the season felt to me, ultimately. And there were aspects that I liked, aspects that I didn't, and we'll go into them. But yeah, overall, I guess, kind of more disappointed than I was with season 1.
Yeah, I thought season 1 was stronger too, especially some of the flashback aspects we got with Charles Lee Ray growing up. I thought that was compelling. We get a little tiny piece of it in, I think, 7 or 8. I'm trying to remember, where you see a little bit of a flashback with the therapist.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, I mean, with Thanksgiving being yesterday, I'll use the analogy that they overstuffed the turkey with this, especially in the back half of the season, where you had Glenn split up, like Glenn and Glenda were split up, and I think one was with Kyle and the other one was with Jennifer Tilly, and then you still had the kid's story, and I mean, there's so many moving parts, and there were cool ideas, as you just mentioned, but I don't really know that they saw a lot of them through, unfortunately. There were some shocking deaths, one in particular that I was a little bit sad about because it was a new character that I quite enjoyed. But yeah, as a whole, it just didn't really do it for me. And then the Christmas episode at the end, I thought it kind of ended on a whimper in a lot of aspects, in my opinion. So yeah, a little bit of echoing your sentiments, man, of disappointment in this season. But it did have some high moments, but it was more valleys than peaks. So.
Yeah, agreed. So I guess getting into the rest of the story, episode 6 was the one that had the death that you're talking about, right? So there was still good Chucky involved, but it was quite clear pretty quickly that, good Chucky isn't actually good Chucky. Like, evil Chucky wins out even in good Chucky, because good Chucky tosses the new girl out the window, who is, I'm assuming, who you were referring to.
Indeed, it was almost like an internal struggle with that doll. I felt similar to what was going on with Nika, but yeah, and so just the internal, like, there's some evil and there's some good in there. What the hell is going on? But veering into the Chucky Prime stuff and the role reversal of Andy getting tortured, looking like Grizzly Adams and stuff, and in the episode thereafter,
and the cannibal Chucky, like
yeah. I don't know. Interesting ideas, I guess. But I want to jump on that point that you mentioned about bringing back, Andy and Kyle, and yet not really giving them a lot to do, and then just kind of, putting them under the rug, just kind of sweeping them under there. And I was amused by the line about how, hey, this should be like a Chucky support group with all of them talking that he is maimed and, just brought murder to their lives and stuff. So once again, there was some snippy dialogue written here and there for some of the characters, but Another bit that I didn't like as much is the fact that whereas Devin and Jake were like cute and figuring out their relationship in the first season, this season was just like the older bickering couple of whining, and it kind of got irritating. And that's like, it doesn't matter, if you're gay or straight, an annoying couple is an annoying couple, and that is what they kind of started to become in this season for me, writing wise too.
Yeah, the thing is, like, it seemed like they deepened Lexi's character a bit while making both of them more shallow. Like, their story was just their relationship. There was nothing else to Jake or Devin this season. Even the whole, like, the fake, like, or not fake, but the very contrived anger where, Jake believes in good Chucky and Devin doesn't, and that's like a big sticking point. It's like, ugh, come on. It just felt a lot of forced. There was a lot of stuff that felt forced, I should say. And so that was going on, and of course Buff Chucky was reborn, so to speak, came back, and one of the nuns started basically following him as though he is God reborn. And
that was a bit much.
But then there was supposed to be a conference. Like, it felt like a lot of stuff that might have been interesting was just wasted in this season. The Jennifer Tilly being stuck in the doll, and then she gets exploded by a truck the way that, the kid in Bride of Chucky did. And then they brought up this Colonel Chucky, who was a cannibal, who was the one torturing Andy and eating his flesh, which, interesting idea, would like to see that fleshed out more. But
fleshed out.
There you go. And then they had him confront the newly revitalized Buff Chucky, who he poisons off screen before the battle, and then Buff Chucky is just done. Like, Buff Chucky was kind of a funny thing, and I would like to see explored a little more, but then that's gone. And then immediately after that, the Colonel doesn't even get like a big final confrontation. He gets stabbed in the back of the head. Like, again, all these things are introduced and then wasted so rapidly. Like, whereas it should have been given time to breathe. Like, this could have been 2 seasons worth of material almost.
Very, very much so.
Yeah, because you had the Jennifer Tilly and Tiffany and Nika and Glenn and Glenda situation, and I did like that by the end of the season, though, Glenn and Glenda were back in the doll, and they brought back the voice actor.
And they also made fun of the voice, which I thought was amusing too. She's like, "Why are you talking in that accent?" He's like, "Where I'm from." That was cool.
But yeah, so.
Also, another setup that, I mean, they did all the stuff with Glenn and Glenn only to put back in the doll Gigi now as it's going by, as they are going by. And just like with Kyle and Andy, to leave presumably the storyline. I'm going to go overseas and visit my homeland. And so that subplot is gone now too. So I guess they streamlined it a little bit, and that goes back to the whole overstuff in the turkey thing, because they had so many different just subplots and mini stories going on concurrently. I did enjoy the whole exorcism vibe that they were going for, and I think it was 7 or 8.
I think that was 7.
Yeah, 7, because 8 was the finale. I liked the exploration of, okay, could we just do an exorcism to get Charles Lee Ray out of this doll? I thought that was a cool angle, but also not really explored that much. It was kind of contained to about an episode and a half. So.
And it resulted in Devon Sawa
the implosion.
The basically just exploding completely.
Not the best CGI, unfortunately.
or the best looking head after the fact didn't look a lot like Devon Sawa either. But nonetheless, it was crazy. Yeah. So that's episode 17 or 7 rather. And let's see what else happened in 7. I mean, that's where a lot of this stuff happened with the Colonel and and Buff Chucky and the nun who was following Buff Chucky gets
thing in her eye.
Yeah, that Glenda throws, right? She throws a knife and gets it right into her eye, and she pulls it out and then falls over. So that's what happens to the nun. Again, very something they developed for an episode and a half and then just did away with immediately. It's just they did so much of that this season. It's just like, why? why are we doing all of this and just wasting all of these ideas? I mean, I guess they didn't know if they were going to get a third season, but man, still fix the pacing in this season, because everything felt very choppy having been done this way. And then there's the whole I forgot what her character's name is, but the older lady who was Charles Lee Ray's therapist when he was younger, who kept saying, "This is the last Chucky doll. This is the last Chucky doll," and like they played that beat 3 different times, right? They killed the last Chucky doll, and then they're like, "Oh no!" It turns out that Chucky swapped into her body before that doll was killed, and he knew of a different doll that she didn't know about. So okay, there was one more Chucky doll. Then that Chucky doll gets killed, and then they fucking tried to act like the Belle doll was actually Chucky in disguise. How does that work?
At the end of episode 8?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, was the Belle doll based on a Chucky doll? It can't be. Like, there's no way that could have possibly happened. So it just got so dumb at times. Anyway, I know I skipped to 8 there, but
yeah, it's all good. And 8 was the Christmas episode, so they were going for just kind of almost a wrap up sort of bit, and it did wrap up Lexi's story in a lot of ways. And that's another thing that I want to echo your sentiment about. I think Lexi had the actress who plays her had the most heavy lifting in this, and the most compelling arc, at least with the addiction, and with kind of in that 8th episode coming to terms with, okay, my mom isn't responsible for everything horrible in my life. I have to take some ownership as well. And so I thought
her sister was taken, so it doesn't really wrap up her story.
Well, I mean, it wraps up the story with her mom, at least. I guess that's what I was implying. Her home life, so to speak. But yeah, the stuff with the sister reveal at the end, a little bit of a head scratcher, I guess. I don't know if I like that development, but we have to have somewhere to go in the 3rd season, right? So.
I guess. I mean, I was hoping that we wouldn't have to see Lexi, Jake, or Devin anymore. Like, I'm ready. I'm ready for a new group of characters in the next season. I don't care about these kids anymore at all. Like, all of their loved ones are dead. Like, there's nowhere to really go unless, like, next season they have new friends, just like you did in the Scream movies, right? A whole new batch of people to kill, but it's
just kind of what they did in this season with the kids at the school. So I'm guessing they're gonna. I mean, are they gonna go to New York City maybe, since that's seemingly where Nico was at the very end, spying on the Jennifer Tilly character, or excuse me, that Tiffany's character, because she's in the body. So I don't know. Maybe that's the next step. That's what they're gonna pursue. But I don't know, man.
I don't know either.
yeah. I'll keep watching, obviously, but I'm a little over the show at this point.
Yeah, I'm a little burnt on it, to be honest. I'll keep watching too, just because I love the character, but I feel very much now how I felt after watching Seed, where I was like, okay, let's let this rest for a while.
Yeah, it was going very Seed, especially in some of those middle episodes, I would say.
Yeah,
so,
well, and I liked the episode that they really leaned into it, where we saw Jennifer Tilly back in the doll and everything, and then I just saw them waste all the potential of what they set up there, and I was like, well, why? Then what the hell was the point? Like, just was really dumb. So I mean, so there's a couple more things to hit on, though, definitely. Obviously the mom storyline was resolved because Chucky somehow found a silent chainsaw.
It's like 60 something decibels, and he's like, I've been a bad boy this year.
Yeah, and then so he leaps down from behind, and again, the rules of physics don't apply to Chucky or anything, because obviously the thing would have hit her and bounced off, and he just would have, because chainsaws aren't like a sword. It doesn't, like, it takes a minute to slice into something. So it starts slicing, and then it's weird because they cut to an angle behind her, and he's already like halfway down her back, but then they cut in front, and like she's still fully there, and then like it felt like he got halfway down her back, and then they moved him back up, and he like sliced the rest of the way down, peeling her in half, which was a very Mortal Kombat sort of death, which that part was fine, except the execution of it was so weird.
Yeah, the editing was a little junky on it. I'll second that.
Yeah.
I mean, it still looked cool, I guess. I'm glad we finally got some serious bloodshed in the last couple of episodes after veering away from it for a bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that one kill was definitely the blood, but well, and then the doll itself being sliced up like a pinhead, basically.
By Lexi there at the end, and her all covered in blood, getting her kind of final girlish sort of moment. But
yeah. Yeah, but other than that, let's talk about outside of that chainsaw kill, you had the death of the girl that you liked being thrown from up top, and then
coming back as the angel in the next episode, which was a little weird
with the janky the headpiece where basically they just put LEDs in her costume to make it look like she was an angelic figure. I was like, holy shit.
And then dropping F-bombs as an angel. That made me laugh, at least.
So yeah, that was kind of silly, and the effects didn't really do it any sort of favors. It got so silly that the impact is lessened when the realism of the kills gets taken out of it. It's a lot like what happened with the Freddy franchise. Down the line, the kills just get silly, and it's no longer scary or threatening. Horn, what are you doing back there? So it's a problem, you know. Child's Play 1, 2, and even 3, to an extent, they were taking the kills still seriously, and so it was scary. And Bride, it started to get really silly, and then Seed, it was just even worse, and it's just like, okay, I can't take this seriously anymore. Like, some aspects of Season 1 I was able to take seriously, but then it started to get silly. Although, yeah, no, it started completely weird. Wait, which was the one where Chucky's vomit was used to electrocute? Was that Season 1 or Season 2?
If it's where they were trying to do the exorcism...
No.
Okay, I think that was Season 1.
Okay, yeah, like it was one of the early kills, right? Isn't that how one of the Devon Sawas died? Didn't he get electrocuted by the vomit?
Damn, I wish I could remember, man.
Yeah, anyway, like, there was some tough kills in the first season, but there were still some that I could kind of take seriously. In this season, there were very few that I could take seriously. They played them all so crazy, including the heart rip, having a whole hole through the kid and having the green screen behind, and it just ends up looking janky, you know what I mean? So I was not a big fan of the effects this season. Although the Chucky effects do feel like they're getting better in the articulation of face and arm movement, but the gore effects and the CG that they're having to do is just, it's not working great.
Yeah, the doll movements, at least, and especially the expressiveness on the face, and the lining up with the dialogue and everything. I thought that was an improvement. And between Colonel Chucky and Thirst Trap Chucky and all the different stuff, I thought all the dolls looked solid and good. I have to re-echo that sentiment though about the Devon Sawa implosion. The CG was just it was fairly laughable in that particular bit, and also where the guy where Glenda when they killed. The security guy at the end, with the
oh my god,
with the heart, the zap looked just awful. The head getting caught on fire just looked so bad.
Yeah, and like that's not how that would work. His head wouldn't just immolate.
Yeah.
But
silly.
Yeah, the previous point you made, shit. What was the one right before that? Because I had a follow up.
Oh, the Devon.
Yeah, the Devon Sawa thing. By the way, sometimes movies will show an explosion 2 or 3 times to sell the impact of it from different angles. They went buck wild with that explosion. They had like 15 different angles that they showed the same. It was like poof, 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 poof. Like just different angles of the same explosion. I'm like, why are we doing so many of these? Like, we don't need all of this coverage.
Yeah, I was wondering if they were trying to like heighten the impact because his character was on kind of a redemptive arc, and going against the church and all that stuff. And they even went kind of like, thirsty with him when he was like, you see like the abs and everything when he's changing his suit up and stuff. I'm like, Mancini's got a man crush. That's what's up.
Yeah, so I mean, I can't really speak to the score. I never really paid much attention to it. It didn't. There was no I couldn't identify many cues from previous movies or anything like that. I will say the strongest thing for me this season was each of the different opening logo sequences. Because having the different objects representing, you know, the word Chucky all grouped together, like, I like that. I think that's cool, and I liked the different objects that they used in each episode. But
yeah, I'd like to.
But if that's my favorite thing about the season, that's not very good.
I think you said that to Robert recently in one of the videos where you were like, yeah, well, if you're gonna say the opening sequence was one of the highlights of the show, you're like, it's not the highest praise, unfortunately. and I did like the way they did the Christmas spin on the little Chucky theme that they have, you know, with almost like sounding like it gets stuck in my head now. It's catchy and it's endearing. Yeah, I dig it.
That's from Child's Play 2. So like that's okay. And I think it might be from the original Child's Play 2, but I believe it's just the second one, because that's where that theme was introduced, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it is the favorite of most people in the franchise. So,
that's the only repurposed bit of score that I could identify from the season. So I did get a little sad during that scene where Andy and Kyle are walking away in their current forms, and they flash back to that bit where they're leaving, and then he's like, "What happens now?" And she's like, "I don't know," or whatever. Yeah, I have no idea.
I have no idea. Yeah, it got me nostalgically melancholy, I guess. You know, how those characters have aged.
Yeah, and me too. And I'm just like, shit. Like, you're gonna remind us all that we're that much older? Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Tom.
yeah. Thanks, Father Time.
Yeah.
And the choice of music beyond the score. I mean, some of these more Gen Z sort of songs that they use. I guess I mean, there's a lot about this show
listen to radio anymore. So
yeah, I don't either. But just the vibe of some of the songs, it's trying to just add some endearment to the love story between Jake and Devin, and you know, some of the trials of Lexi. I just didn't care for the original music used for the show much either, and that was something I griped about with the last season too. So that's nothing new for me to complain about. So
man, I cared so little about Jake and Devin this year. It's crazy. And it's not because of any particular reason other than they were written so flatly, and just like they were bitching at each other the entire time for no reason, and there was no development outside of what their relationship is.
Yeah, I felt like they were kind of like they almost like hit a wall with what they could do with those characters, whereas it was the legacy characters that had a lot more interesting stuff to do. Nika's, I mean, I thought Fiona was great once again when she veered between the two, you know, just kids that were inside of her, and I thought Jennifer Tilly was terrific in this season too. So and also the actress that played you know, Glenn and Glenda, that when there was screen time for that, especially after the shooting scene in episode 7, I think or episode 6, I don't know, it was in either 6 or 7, and when Glenda ran in the way of the bullet shot and all of that. So that actress in dual roles I thought was great too. So I mean, yeah, it was the older characters from previous films that I felt had a lot more interesting stuff to do in this season, which is why anytime we were veering back to the kids, I was just like, oh great, okay.
Yeah. And then of course they ended the season with the, you know, very meta Chucky on set. And instead of doing like the death recap that he did in season 1, they made it a 12 Days of Christmas version. And apparently there were 22 deaths because he went through every single one, but in song form. And it was what it was. Like, I don't really care about this super duper meta side of everything. You know, trying to make Chucky into Deadpool or some shit. It's not really working for me. Like, let's just stick to the narrative, focus on the narrative, make the narrative good, and you don't need all these extra little bells and whistles that aren't really coming off like bells and whistles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, cameos from WWE wrestlers getting killed and stuff like that. It just kind of takes you out of the narrative a little bit.
Oh, gee, you think? Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm just grazing over the condemnation, but
no, season 2 was rough, man. Season 2 was a bumpy ride, and with more lows than highs, unfortunately. So,
And they are confirmed for a third season, I think, right?
no, not officially
No,
yet.
not yet. They just left the door open, obviously, so they
Because
they can go somewhere.
I think I saw Squire's tweet yesterday, like, you know, my hope for Christmas is that we'll get a season 3 renewal of Chucky, you know. I'm like, okay, I guess they haven't gotten renewed yet. And after this season,
Yeah, I don't know.
man. I didn't see, and our reviews have done shit for traffic on the channel. I'm not expecting much out of this one. I don't know if it's because people are over us talking about it, or if people are just over the show in general. You know what I mean? I'm not sure which it is.
Yeah.
So, anyway, on that cheery note,
Yeah, right.
we'll go ahead and call this here. Thank you guys very much for watching. Let us know what your thoughts are on Chucky Season 2 in the comments down below. Thank you very much to our patrons. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias, Benjamin Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.
Stay scared.